Okay, so last week I did a video on TikTok and I was talking about human design and astrology. So if you know what human design is, you know that astrology is one of the studies that make up human design. I won't get into all of them now. I really just want to talk about how astrology and the transits affect your human design and affect your body graph. So I will show you examples. I will walk through in real time, like where you can find this, how you can look it up, and just what you can do, basically, like to become acquainted with this. Um, so if you look at your human design, just like your astrology, they are based off of the date, time, and location that you were born. Okay. So if I look at my human design, I'm a 3/5 splenic projector. I'll show you my chart here in a minute, but I'm a 3/5 splenic projector, and I have 5 of 9 centers defined in my birth chart. Now, as you move from day to day, and there are different transits and different things that are happening in astrology, this will affect what your current design looks like. And what I mean by that is, and again, I'll show you here in a second, but what I mean by that is there will be times where we'll take the root, for example, which I don't think is defined for me right now, but it was yesterday or the day before. So when we look at the current transits, we can see, oh, this center is not naturally or normally defined in my design by birth, but because of the current astrological transits, it is now defined. So let me do a screen share and I will show you exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so go to your browser, type in mybodygraph.com. You can see that it already comes up for me. You will get this page. I am going to log in because I already have an account. You can see single chart right here. This is my chart because I look at this every day. So you can either do get started, and then that's going to prompt you for all of your information. Since I already have an account, I'm just going to log in, which I'm already logged in somewhere else. So this is what my birth chart looks like. So this is my human design at birth, okay? So you can see, like I was just talking, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 centers that are defined here, okay? So at the time that I was born, my head, my anja, my throat, maybe it'd be better if I do show you like this, my head, my anja, my throat, my heart, and my spleen were all defined at the time of my birth. So this is like typical chart. This is the thing that most people look at, right? Which tells you a lot of useful information. Now, what I want you to do when you're on this site is I want you to come over here and come up to this little icon right here. This is the transitions icon. So we click on that and, or not transitions, the transits icon, sorry. So now you're going to see, like, here is today's date. Here's the time. Right here, we're looking at the standard chart. This says complete, and that because this is complete with the current transits, okay? So if I was to click on Julie only, so it'll be just the second one right here to the right. This is Julie's birth chart, which you guys saw first before I went into transits, right? So take a look. I've got these 5 centers defined, right? And then you can see the channels and the gates that I've got defined, right? And I'll do videos later on talking about those different aspects as well, so you can understand them. But for right now, so we click on the complete chart. So typically I have my head defined, and obviously it's still defined. My anja is typically defined as well. This gate is always defined for me, but this center 64 is not. So if I flip back over to just me, right, you see that 63 is defined, 64 is not, okay? So that means you, due to the current transits that are happening, 64 is currently active for me, which basically is like saying, I look at it kind of like a cheat code. So I look at this like, I can have access to things based on the astrology that at the time of my birth, I wouldn't have had access to. This has lots of pros and cons to it, okay? And I won't get into a lot of the nuances of it, but we can look at a couple of different things, okay? So when I'm looking at this chart and you're thinking, oh my, some people were like, oh my gosh, this is such a game changer. Like, where do I go? How do I exactly find this? What does it mean? Blah, 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 right? So that's why I'm making this video so you guys can see all of that. So if I'm on my regular chart and I click on my head here, you can see this is gate 63 for me, right? So if I click back here, let me get rid of this over here to the side because it's bothering me. So if I click now, do you see how normally I have 63, right? But if I go from this chart and I highlight it, you see 63 shows up here. And then if I click here and I do this, you see because of the transit chart, you see over here off to the side, this is lit up, which is your north node and south node. Okay, so because of the placements currently of the north and south nodes, this is how it's affecting my chart, right? So, basically just looking at this chart, the G center is not a center that I typically have to find. And the solar plexus right here, also not something I typically have to find in my chart. So you can also see normally this gate right here, not active in my birth chart, right? This one right here is active in my birth chart. This 44 to 26, that's active in my birth chart. But this 34 right here, not active in my birth chart. Now, the other day when I made the original video, I had this entire channel, 20 to 34, active. So you can use this as a tool. You can use the body graph as a tool, or the My Body Graph website as the tool to figure out what these different channels are, the different gates that are available to you during these times and during the transits. Like it would probably be beneficial for me to say, this 35 to 36, like what is this? And if I click here, it won't go into all of the detail because I don't like this is a month like a monthly or yearly subscription that you could pay for, but I don't. So if you look here, gate 35 is the gate of progress, the gate of change. Gate 36, which this is, where it connects 35 to 36 or 36 to 35. So you see over here, gate 36, the darkening of the light, the gate of crisis. That sounds super interesting, right? So you could go to Google, you can go to ChatGPT, you could even find it somewhere here on the My Body Graph website, I'm sure of it. And you can figure out like what these things mean and how is it then that you are able to, move in a different way that you don't normally move in, or how is it that you are able to, for me, in my case, just looking at, let me close out here again, just looking at this, like the G center, not something that I normally have access to, right? So the G center is actually a motor and it gives more energy. The other day when I made this video, the G center was defined for me, as well as um, the sacral center here, which also more energy. So I was like, holy crap, like what is going on in the astrology right now that I have all of this extra energy? And that's kind of what prompted me to look. I was like, well, let me go and check the transits and let me go and see what's like going on because I definitely feel a difference and I just kind of want to know. Um, so yeah, that's how you can take a look at your chart versus like what the transits are. And you can kind of play around with these things, right? Like if you already know a decent amount about your human design and about like what affects you and how do these things affect you, and then you can research things more, right? If you want to. But just to give you an example, um, because my solar plexus is not typically defined. So if we look back at my birth chart here, you see the solar plexus is not defined for me. But given the current transits, it is defined for me, right? And just like the other day this week when the root wasn't defined, like or when it was defined, I should say, sorry, like Monday, I had so much energy. I was literally up until like 150 working, like 1 in the morning working. And that's not typical for me. This is absolutely not something that I normally do. For anyone who knows me, knows that that's very, very true for me. And then I normally would not be working that late. And I mean, I'm a projector. I don't have that kind of energy naturally and normally, right? So, especially as someone who's a non-energy being, I can use transits to my advantage. And I can look at them and I can say, ooh, like I have more energy now. I can really lock in and I can get more things done where maybe normally I'd have to rest more and different things like that. The caveat to this, or I would say like the other piece of understanding that you need to have and that you need to know with this is when you have centers that are normally not defined in your chart, but they are active because of current transits, like you really, really need to understand how that affects you personally. Because um, going back to the last video that I'd made on TikTok, on that day, the only two centers that were not defined were here and here for me. So with the root and the solar plexus is right here. Solar plexus governs like emotions. So anyone who's an emotional authority has their solar plexus defined. So that means they get the highs and they get the lows when it comes to emotions. And that also means that they need to make decisions from neutrality, not based on whether they're in a high or whether they're in a low. Okay, so because I'm a projector and I naturally pull in other people's energies, I have an open aura. I'm pulling in everyone's energy and I'm amplifying it already because I'm a projector. And if one of these centers is defined and I'm like getting things from it, so in that case, a couple days ago where the solar plexus was not defined and the root was not defined, but I had the sacral and I had the G center. I had the extra energy so I could go, but I still was feeling like pressure, right, from having this undefined root. And I was still feeling like everyone else's emotions, bringing them in, amplifying the shit out of them. And you just got to be super, super careful with, even though a center is like currently defined because of the transits, if it's not normally defined in your birth chart, you need to understand how that affects you, especially if I've got like more energy going, but I can't regulate the emotions because I don't have the defined sacral, or sorry, the defined solar plexus typically, which means the amplification of others' emotions is still going to be happening, but I can burn out much faster because I'm not regulating pressure through a defined root center and I'm still not like not naturally um, defined in the solar plexus area. I hope that this makes sense and it hasn't confused anyone. But really, what I wanted to show is exactly where you can go to the mybodygraph.com website, put in your information, and you can check these things out. Ideally, if you were to pay for the subscription, which I think it's only like $59 a year, maybe. But if you were to pay for that, it's going to give you like all kinds of other information. Um, and really, it's going to help you it's going to help you like use the transits. I think personally, use the transits to your benefit, or at least like learn how things are affecting you more. Um, so again, like if we click here, I was actually thinking about this earlier today or looking at it earlier today. Um, so if I go back to my chart, my birth chart, and I'm here, right? So we've got Jupiter right here. And then we've also got, this should be the sun right here. Yeah. So these are the two aspects from my birth chart that are outlined here, right? You see the 49 and the 36 right here. But then if we go into the transits chart, I'm like, what's making this defined right now? I click on this, boom, Daddy Saturn. So if you know anything about Saturn, and it does give you, I think, a little bit, yeah, it gives you a little bit of info here. It's saying discipline and limitation, right? So there could be ways that you can look at this and be like, oh, okay. So I either am able to operate with more discipline now, or I have to look at, limitation differently, right? So these are just different things that you can play with and different things that you can look at to help you understand like how are these transits really, especially for you astrology people out there who like really know astrology. and you really deeply understand like how it affects you. Like I know when Saturn is direct versus when it's retrograde, like I can feel it a huge, huge difference. And it's good awareness because then you know how you can operate when those things are happening. So like when Saturn's direct, I have much more energy, um, and much more just like kind of like I don't want to say motivation, but more like drive to to do things. Like last year, this time, I think this time last year, it was still, I think it was still retrograde. But I remember like when it was retrograde and I was getting up early in the morning, like 4 a.m. to go running. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have no energy. I can't do this. Um, or like it was really, really difficult for me to, it was really, really difficult for me to get up super, super early. And then as soon as it went direct, it felt like it was so much easier. So start paying attention to those things and then notice how it impacts your life. Notice how it changes things. So I hope this video helped. If you have any other questions or if you need support in any way, if you want to work with me with your human design and your business, uh, hop into my DMs, send me a message, comment, let me know, and I'll see, how I can support or if you have other questions that I can answer for you. Okay.